Welcome back. In this session I show you how to install Tails. Before we do that, I just want to say a little bit more about how Tails works. So as we discussed before, the main risk from the perspective of being safe in the sense of maintaining high levels of privacy and also being anonymous, it's essential to make sure that the operating system we use is not touching the standard clear net in its way of communication. Now, as discussed before, a Windows operating system and a Mac operating system is by no means safe. The alternative, and there are quite a few alternatives, is to use Tails. Now, Tails is quite a unique operating system because it's not installed in a standard way. It actually runs on your RAM. Now, that means it is not installed on your hard drive. Now, this is quite unusual, but let me just explain why that might make sense. Anything you install on your hard drive will leave a trace on your system. Yeah, so if someone who has maybe bad intentions is using a computer with a standard operating system, certain actions this person take are kind of leaving a trace on the hard drive. And of course that is something you want to avoid, obviously, because it can be used as evidence. So now Tails operates on your RAM, which basically means that once you switch off your computer or you pull out the USB stick on which it's installed, there are only seconds left until the RAM memory is lost. So put differently, just hypothetically speaking, if you are in a rush and you hear a knock on the door, the thing to do is you switch off your computer or you pull your USB. It gives you a few seconds, but after that it's virtually impossible to analyze what you have done because it's actually all erased. So that's quite a high level of security. Again, of course, have in mind you can always use these operating systems for good and bad. I stressed it several times in this course. You can also use it for good intentions. For instance, as a whistleblower, if you work in an organization and you want to reveal certain maybe potentially dangerous secrets, that can be a sensible thing to do, or working as a journalist, for instance. But of course, it's also used, and it can be used by bad guys who basically are able to more or less operate without leaving much of a trace. So the idea of the Tor network is good. We discussed that. It's pretty safe. It's not 100%. We know that. And now using Tails, we can also navigate all our communication from the operating system through the Tor network. So basically all the traffic goes through the Tor network, and this is what Tails is providing. It's not magic, there are limitations, and I think that's important to argue, but it is as good as it can be. There is one academic paper on Tails and Tor, and the question they try to answer is it possible to still identify people? The answer is, in terms of theory, it might be possible, but it's exceptionally difficult. And I think this is basically where this is going. It's a very safe system, but you will notice it's quite unusual because nothing is stored on the hard drive. So anything you do, so once you switched on your computer, once you plug your USB stick, everything is lost. You don't store anything. Yes, it's a very different way of working. So anything you use in terms of software, for instance, you have to always install it again when you want to use it. The standard default in Tails is that nothing is stored, but you can have some permanent storage. And also this is encrypted. So basically, when you operate Tails, you can have a permanent storage, for instance, to store the information regarding the Wi-Fi password you use to enter, the internet. Otherwise, you have to do it again and again every time you start using Tails. The downside of that, obviously, is anything that is permanently stored on the USB can be seen. Yeah, so if someone gets hold of this USB stick, this person would be able to see that you use permanent storage. And depending on the jurisdiction, it can be also then, of course, more or less, you can be forced to reveal it. It's not easy to hack into it, but you can be forced quite convincingly to reveal your password to get access to the permanent storage. So there are issues with it, but of course out of convenience it makes sense to use it. But if you want to use it, make sure that things you store there are not in any form or shape problematic. Now, Tails is a Linux-based operating system, and we will later in the course do some more Linux. Yeah, so it will come again. We will use Tails on a USB stick. So what you need is if you want to use it, you have to acquire a USB stick with sufficient space. So I would suggest something a little bit bigger. So usually about 128 GB or something like that should do. Also less than that should do. But I would give it a bit of space just to make sure it's all running nicely. To boot your Tails operating system, we will put this on a USB stick, and we will basically use a software to flash it onto a USB stick using what is called Etcher. It's a software that does that. Etcher can be used to basically create your own boot disks or your boot USB. If you, for instance, lose access to your computer or your Windows is messed up, you can create your own boot USB stick, and you can still boot your computer, and you might be able to restore it. So there are some really good uses of Etcher. So I think it's really a very good software. So what we need to do is we need to install Etcher first on our system, and then we install Tails, following the links on the slide. Once we have done that, we start downloading Tails, which comes actually in a different form. It's downloaded as an image, which is interesting. Then we have to verify the download. So we do something similar we have done for the Tor browser, just to make sure that nobody tampered with it. Once we verified the download, we can use Etcher to flash it on a USB stick. Once we have that, we can then start running it and see what happens. So that's the idea. The alternative of using a USB stick and booting into it is to run your Tails on a virtual machine. Virtual machines are basically machines in machines. So put differently, when I have an operating system like Windows, I can install a virtual machine, for instance VirtualBox, and I can run other operating systems inside this box. And we actually use it later when we play with Kali Linux and do some real hacking. We do this inside the VirtualBox simply to protect our own environment. Now for Tails, I don't recommend that. If you want to use it, it's better to use it through an USB stick, simply because it gives you even higher levels of security. Virtual machines are perfect for training exercises. I would be more reluctant for anything else. But we come to this, so we anyway talk about VirtualBox. We will use it later, but now let's stick to our USB stick that really rhymes. That's fun. Good, so the first thing we do is we now download Azure. You see that here, so we just go there, we just do a standard download. It will detect your operating system. It works on all the standard operating systems. You just download that. I already have a download, so let me just move that here. So we already have it, so that's already installed. That's a standard download, so it shouldn't be difficult for you to do this. So we just double click on it, and it will give you the option to flash from a file. That's the option we need, and then you need a target, which would be a USB stick, and then you start flashing it. But this is quite straightforward to operate, so I'm sure you will be able to do this. The other thing we need is we need Tails. Again, you can easily Google that. So that's the standard download website. And you see here download Tails as an image, a USB image. So we do that. And we save it. And we save it somewhere here under programs. I usually put this under programs. Here we are. And we save that. So that will take a while. And that's quite big. You see that. I already, of course, installed it, so I will now stop this because it takes quite a long time. Once that is done, you see that it actually shows now like an image. Yeah, so if you go to downloads, you see here, up here, it comes as an image. Yeah, so see this IMG extension. I cancel it now because honestly I already have it. It's quite a big download. It would be a bit of a waste of time to do it again. Once you downloaded that, you click on Verify Tails, and then you just navigate to the place where you downloaded. Yeah, so depending on where you downloaded, of course now we haven't done this properly, but we put it into our program. Let me just see. We go to programs, and it should come up here. But we haven't done this properly because I stopped the download anyway. You just click on this and you click verify, and that is it. So once you have done this, you can install it like any normal installation. In this particular case, of course, what we mean by installing is we mean to use Azure to actually flash it on a USB stick. Further down below, you get some further interesting insights into how Tails can be used, whether it's safe, what are the limitations, and I think that's really important to consider. Yeah, it's not, as I said, it's not a perfect thing as always. It has its limitations, but it's pretty good and pretty useful. So that's all there is to it. So now start downloading it. And start flashing this on a USB drive. You will get these USB sticks quite cheaply. So usually they cost maybe around £30, £40 if you want to use it. Alright, that's all for this session. And the next step is to play around with Tails, which I will do on a laptop. Take care, see you next time.